Hey friends, it's Pastor Mike from Fellowship Church again with another midweek message. Hope you're enjoying this beautiful weather, a little cooler outside there, and hope you're staying safe. Please continue to wear your mask and take good care of yourself and your family. I was thinking of a word that I would share with you today. It's the word promise. Now, at some point in time in your life, you've probably used that word. You've said something like, I promise. And by saying that word, you were expressing your intent to follow through with something. Now, maybe you use that word in a conversation with a spouse. Maybe you use that word when you were talking to the kids and you said, I promise we'll go do something fun, or I promise you and I will go do this. When we use that word, we usually mean that we're intending to follow through with something. But friends, if your promises are like most other people, there are times when you break your promises. That's the fallacy, that's the fault behind a promise, is that sometimes people like us, people like me, we don't follow through with those promises very well. Well, if you've studied your Bible at all, you know that there are a lot of times in the Bible where God makes promises. Sometimes He actually uses that word in the Bible. It says that God has promised to do this. And sometimes it's simply God making a statement saying, I will do such and such. Now, sometimes those promises of God are what we call conditional promises, where He says to the people, if you do this, I will do this. So He's waiting to see if we'll fulfill our end of the bargain first. There are other times when God makes unconditional promises. It's not based upon our behavior or actions. God simply says, I'm going to do this for you. Well, those promises that are human promises, sometimes those promises get broken. Sometimes adults break their promises to kids, and as time goes by, the kids stop believing the adults. Or sometimes the adults, if they make enough promises or make enough commitments to other people and don't follow through on those commitments, well, the people stop believing them after a while. It's because for humans, we tend to keep promises as long as it benefits us. I don't mean that to sound entirely self-serving, but the reality of it is, it's a whole lot harder to keep a promise if there's not a benefit for you. Well, here's how God keeps promises in the Bible. God doesn't keep promises simply because He's benefiting from the promise. God keeps promises based on His character. God keeps promises because God is faithful. So that when God says, I will do such and such for you, when God says, I will share my everlasting love upon you, I will always watch over you and provide for you. When God says, I'm guaranteeing your salvation, when God says, I want to give you hope for a future, I have plans for you, God is not simply making those promises based on our own behaviors or based on God's benefit. God makes those promises based on His character, and God's character never changes. That's why we get to say that God is always faithful, and what we mean by that is God always keeps His promises. He's a whole lot better at keeping promises than I'll ever be, and He's better at it than you are as well. Friends, may you know that God has made a lot of promises to you in the Bible, and God will always follow through on His promises. He's always faithful. In the midst of these uncertain times with this viral pandemic and everything else going on, may you take some hope and comfort in that as well. Friends, take care, be safe, God bless, have a wonderful week.